And most of the time she's sitting right beside me and she's like, we really made that much? We made that. I was like, we made that much. So
All right, Mr. Gregg, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well.
All right. Well, you are one of our star clients here at Seven Figure Dojo. So today is all about interviewing and, autopsying your success, so to speak, like what's been working and that type of thing. So for anybody who might be watching this, can you tell everybody what your background is, like where your school's located, where you guys started, all that good stuff?
Sure. So we're located in Ithaca, New York. My background is core is American Kempo, but we mix in a lot of like kickboxing and Filipino martial arts, and a little bit of grappling. Not much, but a little bit. Try to help students get a little bit more well-rounded. We're a little bit unique. We do our martial arts school. We run it as a ministry, and so we make sure that students know that all of our teachings are faith-based, and we kind of direct people towards the true master. So, so I've been training. Actually, I just celebrated this week. I celebrated 20 years as a black belt.
Wow.
So cool. my students were all asking me, it's like, what is that old belt on your waist? That's not your new. It's like, so it's kind of customary that every year at this time I wear my first degree in class, and so it keeps getting more and more white on it, and less black. But but yeah, I trained a lot in upstate New York, mostly out of churches. I've taught mostly out of churches, but I've taught for over 20 years now. We've been here in Ithaca for about 12 years.
Okay. So started this thing really to help people and show them, the path and be able to have a ministry going. So what, I know when you first started with us, the student count was rather low. So where were you guys at when you started? Like how many students did you have, and what ultimately brought you to the decision of, hey, let's go ahead and, start working with Seven Figure Dojo?
So when we started with you all, we were at 7 students.
Okay.
We're in a college town, and so it's very fluctuant. We'll go up to almost 20, and then we'll drop down to 5, and within a year's time, people move and everything like that. I knew I needed some. If I was going to go full time, we were only teaching 2 days a week, and I knew if I was going to go full time, I was going to need some support, some mentoring in that. I looked at a lot of different ones. They have a lot of good information in there, but some of them were just telling me, hey, you know what, just stop your talking about Jesus thing and just do martial arts separately. And you guys never did that with me. You were like, so the other thing is okay, so if you're going to make your school really grow, you have to have an after school program, kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm stretched enough as it is. So like, no, there's got to be a different thing than babysitting. No offense to anybody who does the after school program, because for me, that's what it would feel like. So, but you guys had a very clear cut path. I've been watching a lot of your YouTube videos for almost a year before I decided to say, okay, I'm gonna contact them, see what the steps are, and see if that's something that really do it. So I waited a while, prayed about it a lot, and
started working with it.
Started with you in September.
So when we first got going and everything with you, what did you notice was a big change for you? Like what happened right away?
Big change was I knew I had to start being more and more of a student, not just of, I've always wanted to be a student of the martial arts, but of the business. I had to do a lot more seriously, and I've wanted to, but you all had given, with a lot of the videos, instructions and things like that, you had given a much more clear-cut path for that. So that was one aspect. The other one was just overall looking at the class structure. I never thought of like how you structure like the very beginning, the white belt group to, I had old school mindsets. Or even, things that I think the industry has been doing, at least since the 90s. Late 90s, early 2000, things that my instructors did. And they were very successful, but I didn't see them in the very beginning. I saw them when they had like multiple locations and a good sized staff, a bench to draw from.
Right.
I didn't know what it looked like to get up there. I understood what they did while they were there, but I didn't know how they got up there.
Right.
And I had already moved on to another instructor, and so some of those ties had been split, and So that was those were two big things. Yeah, a lot of that.
Just mentality, it sounds like getting into the business mentality was different for you. And with 7 students, okay, so you started with 7 students in September. We got rolling. Of course, you're working with our dojo assistant team, you're working with our ads team, you're working with our coaching teams. You got the whole suite that you're working with, and you took it really seriously. And the thing that I'm hearing from the coaches is like, yeah, you're fast to implement. So and moving forward on the things that they're asking you to do. So what was it like getting a whole team? Because you mentioned you didn't have any bench strength, but what was it like adding a team to your school? Was that helpful for you?
So as far as the team aspect goes, that was really helpful because I'm a one-man band for the martial arts school. Like I said, we were doing 2 nights a week. That's all I could actually have the time for. From my mindset, you guys had kind of expanded like,
Yeah.
hey, this is a better way to restructure it. And it's like, oh, wait, I can actually do more. My other full-time job is I'm a preacher for the church where I'm teaching at. And so that takes a lot of my time. And so when the team came in and they're fielding calls and scheduling the appointments, I was like, I don't have to be fielding all these calls all the time. We're trying to figure out in my schedule when to do that.
Yeah.
And so that was really big for me. So yeah, there was a lot of weight off the shoulders take. So
yeah, so that was a big relief for you. Yeah, that's awesome. So especially when you're doing that and you are obviously doing everything you can with the preaching, and you've got to take care of your flock and do all that, and then you're trying to run the martial arts school in the evenings and the afternoons. So 7 students starting. First 30 days once we got things underway for you. I mean, I know we had to get ads in place, we had to get the dojo assistant team knowing exactly what you were booking and all that. Kind of walk us through the next 30-45 days. How have you grown? What have you done there?
So the first 30 days with you all was a lot of the implementing, like you were talking about. It was touching base with the coaches. It was looking at some of the videos. And for me, it was how much of this can I digest right now to get a bigger picture? As we had students, I knew we were trying to get new students, but we also had students that were like in their brown belts. Even though we only had 7 students, some of them were higher ranked students. And I was like, okay, I still want to make sure I've got that long range vision for them too.
Yeah.
And so you guys had enough information in there for me to kind of glean from and look at. Okay, I kind of see what they're wanting me to do here. So a lot of that was those 30 days was to kind of digest the first set of material and to get introduced with everybody that I'm working with. And even I'm not the most techie guy, so it was like getting me hooked up on some of the programs too. And I was like, I'm doing what? Oh, okay. They're like, sir, we'd like you to log into here. I'm like, log in how? Like, well, how do you? So they had a whole lot of patience with me, so I'm really thankful for that. But yeah, so those first 30 days was really just getting everything groundwork laid, just as Jesus talked about in Matthew 7, where he's like, have that strong foundation and you can withstand the storm. I know I'm preaching again. So once that started happening towards the end of the 30 days, our ads were starting to be seen by people and people started calling in. And I would say from towards the end of that first 30 days, towards the end of September, all the way through October, I was doing nothing but intro classes. It was just crazy. And so we ended up, well, that's the first 30 days. You asked for 30 days.
Yeah. So keep going. What happened in the
next?
Well,
the next 30 days, so in the month of October, we did like 21 new students.
That's awesome.
22.
Yeah.
So it was pretty big. It was like more students than I'd had all year.
Wow, that's awesome. And so just curious, like what's your monthly pricing like for those classes, like for what you're charging right now?
So now what we're doing, and we went from, like I said, 2 days a week, and all I was doing was I was charging like $79 a month. And my wife is like, I think you're worth more than that.
Yeah.
I know, but that's my wife. She's, she married me to say that, and, those kind of things. Sometimes it doesn't wasn't really set in, and you guys came along saying, sir, here's the suggested rate. Man, it was a little hesitant for me. I was like, and so we do the 4-month program at, well, I've said it enough times, you'd think I would know.
Sorry, I put you on the spot. That's why.
I know. We do 597 4 months.
All right. That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference, it's been, obviously I've invested more, but that's because I've had a little bit more to invest now because of that. But at the same time, I've gone from, man, I'd love my own location, but I don't know when, to 2 years minimum.
Yeah.
I've already set the date, 2 years minimum. At this trajectory, it'll be, we keep going the way we're going, it will be definitely 2 years minimum.
Yeah.
To have our own
at that rate, you've added close to $13,000 of recurring, annual revenue that's coming in the door. So, and that's a really big jump for you considering you're at 7 students before. So how did that make your wife feel and you guys as a family?
Well, it's interesting because, every night I get back and I do up my report of like the intros and, how much has come in for today. And then we look at how much is for the week. And most of the time she's sitting right beside me and she's like, we really made that much? we made that. I was like, we made that much. So like, so she was like, oh, wow. At first she was a little hesitant. She's like, you're going to put 5 days instead of 2. And I was like, I am. But we've always had this up and down thing of, and especially throughout October where we just kept coming in. She was like, okay, I even had my in-laws visiting me one of those weeks and it was like, I'll be home at dinner at some point. I got intro classes I'm teaching. And so they were all excited because they got to see all of that and they were like, wow, so that was really good.
Yeah. So you continue that growth. I mean, I know we're heading into the holidays right now. How do you feel the support has been in regards to continuing to generate, leads and enrollments and strategies for you to be able to, to withstand the holiday season? Because typically that's a slower season for martial arts in general. So, what do you feel about the support that you've been given in that time frame?
So November was slower, but it was also slower on my end. As we get into the holiday season, as a preacher, I have more church responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so I've dropped the ball a little bit on me getting out there and doing my part of like finding events to actually be at. But the team is super supportive. They're still continuing to do their job. At the same time, they're continuing to give me advice, and it's really the coaches are very much we're gonna kind of challenge you and push you, but at the same time we're gonna be very respectful at the same time. So I feel so the sense that I get from them is definitely a call up to where I need to be, an accountability kind of thing, but at the same time an encouragement because they know it's not easy to try and run two jobs and have a family and all that. So very supportive. I've enjoyed working with them.
Awesome. So if somebody was watching this video later and they were considering, it took you a year, you were watching me on YouTube and a part of some of the things in our Facebook group and things like that. So what would you say to that person now that you've been on the inside? What would you say to that person that's maybe in the same shoes that you were and kind of considering, do I invest? Because it was pure investment on your part. It wasn't like you were making money already, a lot of money, and just be like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like this was a real deal for you. So what would you say to that person that's maybe in your same shoes?
I would say if you don't want to grow your school, click on another video. If you do want to grow your school, you just take the step and join 7F. The team there, you all are a great team. As I said before, there have been multiple times where I've heard you give credit to God, and so I'm very grateful for that. The team is professional. You all know what you're doing, and it goes across the board. It doesn't matter what style. It doesn't matter if you do the forms, you don't do the forms, if you do stand-up, groundwork, weapon. This stuff works no matter what, because you all have people from all sorts of backgrounds training. So stop waiting.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. You're doing amazing. You've had considerable growth, and I can't wait to continue to see you in your journey and see you move into that location in a few years. That's going to be a big one for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.